Hello, it is Friday, March 5th, 2021, and today we are going to be working on some stuff for the 7-day roguelike challenge. I'm going to start today because I'm not going to be working on it on Sunday, so technically it'll be 8 full days, but I'll only be working for 7 of them, so I think that's fair. So let me swap over to this. Yes, let me reposition my camera. Alright, it seems to have not... seems the camera is functioning now. Cool. Sometimes it does not. I did a little bit of work off camera, so what I did was... oops, that's not what I wanted to do. So one of the things I did was I was messing with the items. Where is it? Yes, items in here. So I created a whole bunch of item images, just a bunch of different weapons and things like that. I didn't bother with armor, but there's basically 4 tiers or 4 types of equipment, one for each material in the game. So that would be slate, granite, sandstone, and marble. And also, I added to each agent, to the unit component, I added spots for the item in the left and the right hand. They are kind of derpy at the moment. They don't appear quite right. So you can see that the axe appears correctly, but the shield doesn't appear at the correct offset. It also doesn't appear above the hand like it's supposed to. Well, it does if we move away, but yeah, it's kind of... there's some issues. Also, what are they called? The little selection dudes over here didn't get all the updates because they're not technically part of the prefab. So what that causes is it causes a bunch of errors to appear. It's actually fine, these don't really matter. I'll fix them at some point. I don't want to worry about that today. Today I actually want to worry about the stat system and stuff like that, because that's one of the things that we are going to be able to work on now, because we're technically working on it working on the game for the challenge. So I've done a mock-up of what I want the stat stuff to look like. So I want it to look kind of like this, and I'll explain this in a minute. Basically what I did, I grab this, move it away. I want the health and the mana to appear kind of like Diablo, and then I want the bottom of the screen to be taken up by something that's kind of like a belt. That's like kind of the idea, is this is your like belted equipment, and that's just where you put all your items. This appears, you know, they just kind of sit there like in Ultima, and then the thing in here is like the belt buckle. But yeah, the knight is going to represent the health, the bishop's going to represent magic or mana or what have you, and so yeah. That's what that is. The stat stuff. So whenever you hit tab, all of this stuff is going to appear. This is going to slide in from the side. This is going to appear somehow. I don't know what it's going to look like. But basically starting from the left, so we have your list of dice, and then the faces on each die, so you're going to be able to modify that when you level up. When you level up, you're going to get skill points, and you can use those to do various things. You can use them to add new dice, you can use them to upgrade existing dice, or you can use them to unlock dice slots for each stat, or you can upgrade the stat itself, so that'll give you a flat bonus to whatever roll you do, or whatever the total roll is. So on the dice side, it's going to tell you what or how many you have that are unassigned. Here it's going to list all of your dice, regardless of whether they're assigned to a slot or not. And so when you want to assign them, you just click the die here, drag it over to one of these slots, and yeah. And so the idea is that each die is going to appear in the order that it's in the stat. So if you have like 2 dice in health, the first 2 here are going to be health dice. Unassigned probably will appear at the top actually. And then you'll have, you know, like if you have 2 dice in health, the first 2 will have like the word health here. They'll be coded to whatever color this is. They might even have the health like stat symbol on them. And so yeah, it's going to be just a list of all of them. And so the health and mana, you basically can assign up to some number of dice. There might even be a button to upgrade the number of slots. So I think health is going to cap out at 3, mana is going to cap out at 3. And these dice are going to be locked, so you can't actually remove them from the slots once you put them in. And so each time you level, it will roll the dice, and then it will increase your health by that amount. Same with mana. And then the other dice, for like attack, defense, magic, speed, and luck, those will be, you can just move them freely between the different slots. And so yeah, you'll just basically click and drag and it'll put it here. And then if you click on it, if you left click on it, just a single left click, it will probably highlight it or something, show you which die it is. And then if you right click, it'll push it back, like it'll remove it from the slot and turn it to unassigned. And then if you, what was the other thing you could do with them? If you click and drag, you can move it to different slots, basically. And it'll just recolor itself in here. And yeah, the same thing, you can increase the base stat, which just gives you a flat bonus to the roll. And so each time you roll, each time you swing a weapon, you will roll your attack dice, and that will determine the damage. It will get added to whatever attack dice the weapon has. Same with defense, whenever you take damage, these dice will be rolled, and you will, that will counter the damage that the enemy has, or whatever incoming damage will be negated by that amount, or there'll be some formula for determining how defense helps. Magic, same thing, whenever you attack with a spell. Speed, each time, this one works differently. Each turn, the speed dice are rolled, and it will take, probably roll them twice or maybe 3 times, and it'll take the higher roll. And there might be some stuff about that. This might actually only cap out at 2. That's probably what it's going to be. It's probably going to cap out at 2, so that you can't have a ridiculous roll. It might just roll twice and take the average or something like that. Yeah, that'll probably cap out at 2. So theoretically, the best you would be able to do, yeah, I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't want people moving ridiculous speeds. Luck is basically going to be both evasion and magic resistance combined into one stat. So if you are in melee combat, each time the enemy attacks you, you will roll your luck, and if you roll better than a certain amount, maybe better than their luck, you will evade the attack. And maybe you have to roll like double or triple their luck or something like that to evade the attack. Whereas if you're having a spell cast at you, you'll have the same thing. So that's how that's going to work. And I don't know if enemies will work the same way. They'll probably just have fixed stats because that's probably just easier. But yeah, that's what we're going to work on today. I don't know how far we'll get, but yeah, I don't know how far we'll get, but let's hope that we get pretty far with it. Okay, so I got to think about this, what I want to do. I'm trying to figure out how to export this. I guess we can just export to here. Yeah, okay. So put this in images temp. Images temp, this will be the screen, or no, this will be the UI mockup. Mockup, okay. That's not what I wanted. Let's save that, yep. And then we want the width to be 1920. And then roughly 1080, yeah. All right. So we can export that. Okay, and I've saved this. So now all we have to do is we go in here, and then we create a panel, UI panel, just say mockup. Yeah, mockup. Then the background can be equal to, well, actually we need to find it. It's an images temp UI mockup. Okay, this can be sprite UI. 1920 is the PPU. All right. And then here, we'll just set U to be the UI mockup. Okay. And this is just a quick way to make sure that to get the scaling right. It's basically just an easy way to have a guide to work with. Okay, so let's see approximately how big everything's going to be. And if we want it to be smaller, actually this is probably about the right size. This can probably be a little bit smaller. Health, mana, etc. Those can all be a little bit different. Yeah, actually, I think the sizing is almost perfect here. Sometimes you load these up and the sizing is kind of off, but actually I think this is good. It's readable. Yeah. All right, we'll use this as the actual size. Okay. We want this to be at the bottom here, because we want to build everything on top of it. Okay. So let us create, what are we going to create first? All right, let's work on the listing of the dice. So for that, I know that I want a panel. I want it anchored to this side. Yes, I want the X anchor to be there, or the X pivot to be there. The width, let's try 300 and 50. 375, 400. Okay, 400. And the height, we want that to stretch. Want that to stretch like that. Yeah, okay. So that's going to be our listing of dice. This is the game panel. Yeah, I want this. Okay, that will be our listing of dice, and so we're going to give that a really dark background. Okay, this will be the dice list. And then inside of here, there might be more dice than there are, is screen space. So what we want to do is we want to create a scroll view, but we also want this divided into two sections. The top section is going to have some static text and a button. So let us create another panel here. And this one is going to match the width of its parent, but it's going to have a fixed height. The pivot for the Y should actually be 1. Y position should be 0. So 1, setting the pivot to 1 for the Y just sets it to the top so that it gets anchored to the top, and now we can set the width directly. So let's say 50, 70? 70 is probably fine. And this doesn't need a background. This will be the header, or sure, this will just be the header. It's not really what it is, but it's fine. So with that, we want to create the text for the unassigned, and we also want the button. So this is the TM Pro stuff. This is probably okay the size. We want this centered, basically. I don't actually want it justified there. It's just going to say unassigned. Let's disable wrapping. And let's set the text size to maybe 20. Yeah, that'll work. And we can set that to there. The width can be about 150. It really, actually, just set the width to 1. So it really doesn't matter. Let's just set the width to 0. And sure, I don't know what this is. No, I really don't know what that is. Sure, I guess it can look like that. It doesn't matter. So this will be the label, the unassigned, or no, this will just be a label. Then we will have some number here. So, I mean, theoretically you could have maybe 99 unassigned dice. I don't think you really could, but let's just pretend. So this is the count. Right, and this way we can decide to change only the count. Which actually we want this left justified, not right justified. Or sorry, we want it right justified, not left justified. Yeah, something like that. Okay, and we probably want this, no, actually white is a good color for that. Okay, and now we can create the TMP button. So we're going to go to UI, UI, TM Pro button, okay. And we want the text size to match. So I want to set this to, is it 24 there? It's 20. Well, think we can set you to 24, right? Shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, okay. Set this to 24 so that the two text sizes match. Move you over a little bit. Then put you there. Okay. I want to call this the label. Alright, and we want that to just be like add or new or whatever. Something like that. And you can be bold. Okay. I kind of like the flat sort of look. I don't really like the way that it looks normally, like with the just default Unity stuff. I don't think it looks that good. Set this to 100. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, something like that. Actually, that can be right there. Probably want this to be the add. Yeah, okay. So in-game doesn't look too bad. Okay. Well, I mean, you know, it looks very dry, but that's fine. Can set your height. We want your pivot to be, actually no, we want position to be 0. What we want, actually want you to match completely. The top should be at 70. There we go. And the bottom should be at 0. Perfect. Okay. And this will be the actual list. So we can delete those. And now here, we actually want this to be a scroll view, I believe. A scroll view, yes. Actually, this can just be here directly. We can delete you. And we can recreate the same settings. So we can say that the left is at 0, the top is at 70, and then the right's at 0, and the bottom is at 0. Okay. I want the background here to be non-existent. By non-existent, I mean actually non-existent. So we're only going to scroll vertically, we're not going to scroll horizontally. So we can get rid of the horizontal scroll bar. And in the scroll view, we can disable horizontal scrolling because we're not going to use it. The visibility, we can always have scroll bars just because it's easier. In the viewport, yeah, the right can be 17 there. The bottom actually wants to be 0 because we want this to run all the way along the side. I think the scroll bar is a bit too large, but we can fix that at some other point. So now what we need to do is we need to actually create the template. Well, there's a couple things we need to do. One, content. Let me move you around a little bit. Okay. So the content, that needs to have I think this needs to have a vertical layout group. Because I think the content is what needs to scale. Is the content, or is it? Yeah, the content is what needs to scale. The viewport is fine. But yeah, the content. So what we want to do is we want a list to appear in here. The vertical layout group will space them correctly. If we set it to, we want to control the child's width, we want to control the child's height, and then if we say we want a content size fitter, we want the horizontal size to be unconstrained, but we want the vertical size to be the minimum size that the child allows. So in this case, if we have, let's say, a panel, the height's controlled by that. Is that what we want? Since these are all the same size, one thing we could do is we could use a grid layout component. That's probably easier, all things considered. Let's just say a grid layout group. Yeah, that's probably easier, all things considered. Let us... I don't think there's any way that we can tell you to match the parent size, which is unfortunate. We can set you to 0. So what we want is we want you to match the width of this, which is I think 400. So 400 is the width, and then minus the scroll bar. So it would be 383? Is that right? 383? No, not for the Y. 383? Yeah, that's right. Alright. So this is a grid cell, so if we add more of these, we will get grid cells appearing like that. That's what we want. So this will be the template. We'll just use a template system here. It's easiest. And so what we're going to do is, whenever we're done with this, we're going to turn this invisible, and then we are going to just whenever we want to add something to this list, we're going to duplicate this and set it active, and that'll just keep the template. We could turn it into a prefab, but I don't really want to do that. We do want this to have a background of some kind. Maybe not that transparent, but yeah, some kind of background to it. Also, I thought you had no sprite. Which one of you has a sprite? You don't. No, really, why are we getting rounded edges there? Not a fan. Content, you don't have a sprite. I don't think we need... Oh, wait, do we need you? I don't actually know. I think we do, actually. You should have no... Okay. Strange. Whatever. Whoops. Yeah, whenever we duplicate you, yeah, okay. And so what we need to do now is we need to add the image for the die. So let us add a UI image. It's going to be the die, and we're just going to use this standard image here. It only has the 1, 2, and 3 on the faces, and it's not that great, but it'll work. Let's say, I don't know, 60 and 60. Something like that. I don't know, 64, 64, sure, because that's a good number. Alright. So this will be a die, and so the player can click and drag it. Okay, and now we need some way to represent the faces. So this is going to be kind of dynamic. So we're going to do basically the same thing that we did with the content here, is we're going to create a grid layout component that is going to create a horizontal grid of faces. So in here, we can create a UI panel. This is going to be the faces list. It's going to basically have no image. It's going to look like that. Fixed width, fixed height, which is going to be 0 and 0. So it's going to sit basically right there. It's going to have a grid layout component. So its children are going to be of size 32 by 32, just to pick a random thing. This is going to be UI image. That's roughly what I wanted, actually. And I guess you have to be aligned to the position of the first face. So the constraint, we want this to appear, I think right now it's flexible, so it appears vertically. We don't want it to do that. We want it to, first off, align, yeah, the start axis is across, it's horizontal. Sure. We want a fixed row count, and we want there to be 1 row. We want them to be spaced by about 3, and maybe 5. 5 seems better. And we want you to be aligned to the pivot. We want the child alignments, that's where the alignment is for this, for the pivot. We want that to be instead of the upper left. We want it to be the middle left? No, we want it to be the middle right? No, middle left, yes. It doesn't really matter, but I want it to be that way. And so now this is with 6 faces, so we can actually assign these to, let's say, I don't know, die 0, die 1, die 2, die 3, sure. Something like that. And so this will just be a face. Can delete that, yep. Okay, now this will be however, we can populate this with however many faces we need. In this case it'll be 6, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. These actually technically need to be buttons. We'll figure it out later. Yeah, they need to be buttons, but it'll be fine. The next thing we probably need... actually, I think this is fine. This is fine for this template. Yeah, so if we create another one of these, or a couple more, we get, it appears like this. What should the spacing be? Should it be about 5 on the Y? That's probably good. Okay. Alright, I like that. And we might even have this be its own template. How do I feel about that? That's probably fine. Yeah, let's replace this with a button. Let's just make this a normal button. We don't care about the text inside because it's going to be just a image button. And it will have the die 0 as its face, okay? And then this will just be the template. Use another template system here. Okay. And so now what I want to do is I want to create a script to manage this because it's a little bit more complicated than I want to manage, or I don't want the dice list. There's probably going to be a dice list component and then a dice list item component. And I don't want the list managing this. I want to basically give this, I want to create a component where I can give it a die and it will just show the faces of that die. So what we will do is we will go into the, let's say, scripts, game, components, UI, and I will create a C# script. We'll call this the dice list item component, because the top level is going to be the dice list component. Okay. And the first thing we need to do is we need to put this into the namespace red plus blue.game. Doesn't really matter, but we're going to do it anyway. I'm going to move all of this up here. So this is the dice list item component. Okay. Get rid of all that. Can get rid of that. Actually, we're going to need collections generic, I think. Can duplicate Unity because we're going to need Unity UI. Okay. So what are the different pieces of this here? The different pieces are, well, the only different pieces, so there's the background image. That's going to need to change color based on which stat the die is assigned to or whether it's assigned. And then we have the faces list here. So that's going to be like a rect transform. And then we have the face template. Okay. So you have a public image, Okay, what's broken here? Whoa, what's broken? Oh, okay, never mind, nothing's broken. Just in the wrong context. Okay, so public image, this is the background. And then we're going to have a rect transform. This is going to be the faces list, or we'll just say faces. And then we'll have a public rect transform. This is the face template. Okay. And then we're going to have a method. I already have a library for dice that I ended up creating. So we have this die here that has faces on it. It has a list of faces. Each face has some special properties to it. Nope, I don't care. So basically each face, long story short is that these dice can do a little bit more than just, let's say, rolling and totaling and stuff like that. They support like multipliers using the maximum and minimum die values, stuff like that. Long story short, it's a lot of black magic that we don't need to go into. The important part is that we have this die and we can get the magnitude of the face. That's all we need to know. So we need to say, given a die, I want to show the information for that die. So we'll say public void, or actually no, we'll say public die, I thought the die was from, no, it's red plus blue game, okay. Just say this is the die. And we'll have a public void refresh. And this will just refresh the information for that die. So now we can say, whenever we refresh, we will say, let me think about this. We'll say, first thing we want to check is if the faces have been created. So say if faces, this will be the number of children in faces. So if faces.childCount is 0, then we need to actually create the faces. Maybe not. Maybe we do this, maybe we have like an initialize. Yeah, actually, I'll have an initialize. Initialize. And so we can get rid of this. What the initialize will do is the initialize will create a list of faces, or will create the, list of faces. So what we want to do in create faces is, on all this will do is just create faces. Say create faces and then refresh. Something like that. Have private void awake. In awake, what we want to do is we want to initialize. Okay. And if we need to initialize something else, we can do it later. But the create faces. So we're going to just assume that there are 6 faces. So we can do using system.enumerable or .link. And we'll say enumerable .range of 0 to 6 for each of these, or sorry, to list for each. What we want to do is we want to, actually no, I want to say select the index we're going to ignore. So for each index, we want to say var face is equal to instantiate faces template at our, probably have faces as the parent. I'm going to say face dot local scale is equal to vector3.1, because whenever you do instantiation like this, you can get some weird rescaling, or at least I've seen some weird rescaling. And so we can return face. So now we have a game object for each index, and then we can say dot for each, or dot to list, dot for each. We could say face, or no, actually they've already been added, so I don't think we need to do anything else there. Or maybe, no, we need to create, we need to, that's a question. We need to create a dictionary, or at least a list. No, I think this is fine. So we just create faces. And yeah, they're stored in the children of here, so getting a child of that shouldn't be too bad. That should be fine. So yeah. We do want to say face.setActiveTrue. Or .gameObject.setActiveTrue. Okay. So let us Yeah, let us test this. So in, let's say, template here, can add a dice list item component. So the background is itself. The face template is that, and then faces is that. So when we initialize, we should get 6 faces. And they should just be empty. Or nothing happens. Interesting. Why did nothing happen? So initialize, create faces. Huh. Should have gotten an awake. Face equal instantiate face template at that. Well, actually, this can be for each. To list for each. It may not have triggered because I might have had the select. That's probably what happened. What do you have? You have die 0. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I had just used the select, it was being lazily evaluated. Okay. Yeah, that's where the faces will appear, but we don't have a die assigned into here, so we don't actually get anything on the faces. All right. So when we do the refresh, what we want to do is we want to say die dot faces dot for each. No. I guess what we want to say is we want to say we want a constant. So I'll say protected constant int face count is equal to 6. We'll just say that that's how this is going to work for now. And this will be face count. Yep. Okay, and then this will be the enumerable.range. Yes, from there to there. And then what we will do is for each of those, .toList.forEach index. I mean, really, we want to map this. I want this to be from 1 to face count plus 1. Because we want the index to be shifted by 1. Because I think that I actually don't know how that's going to work. Tell you what, let me just do this for now. So for each of these, what we want to do is we want to look at the die. So the face is going to be die of dot faces at the index. So that's the face that we're talking about. And we want to set the There's a question. How are we going to look up the image? We could do resources.load. We can do a couple things. I guess. I don't want to store a reference to all the images on each die. That's kind of lame. So I think what we'll do. I wonder if scriptable objects can be generic. I would bet they can't. Let's try that actually. Let's do some science. Let's say we'll say a list registry. Call this that, and then we'll say namespace. You say red plus blue dot game. I mean, I could look this up, but I don't know if the documentation would be correct. Let's say a scriptable object, and let's give you some generic type. Let's say I don't know, a list of some t where t extends mono behavior. No, I think it needs to be, no, is it object? Yeah, how about that? That's probably serializable. And so now let's say we just had a public list of, let's say, using system.collections.generic, some list of t, and we'll say elements. So the idea is that we're creating a scriptable object that represents a list. And now, in theory, what I could do is, let's say we created an image registry. And then that can be in namespace red plus blue.game. What we can do with this now, I think, is we can say this extends list registry of sprites. Now the question being, does this work? So we say create asset menu. We'll say registry slash image or slash sprite slash image. This needs to say menu name is equal to that. Okay. Now, will you warn me if I try to do this? You will not. Okay. So that's promising. This might be totally dumb, but let's find out. Create folder, say registry. Let's create a registry of images. Haha, it does work. Okay. So this will be the die faces. Okay. And then there will be 10 elements to this. Actually, we don't need to do this. We can lock the inspector. Let's go to images, go to dice, and then we go die 0 through 9, which should be 10 elements. Okay. Yep. Wait, what? Oh, does that not? No, why did that not? Why? No, really, why? That's, is it serialization issues? What is it? Why did that happen? Because my understanding is that shouldn't have happened. Fine. Where was that? That was in resources. Yeah, resources, and then registry, and then yeah, the die faces. This way we can reference this list, and it will only, there should only ever be one copy of it. So if we ever want to change the artwork for each face, we can do that more easily now. It'll get propagated to all the other elements, or all the other we get propagated to everything that's using this list, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So yeah, surprisingly that works. Really, it should be called a sprite registry, but I don't care. I don't care enough to actually change it, is what I'm trying to say. So if we create a reference to that, so we say public image, or no, yeah, image registry. And then this is the faces, or the face registry. Okay, so now we can look stuff up in there, basically. And actually, we can just put an index on it. We can put an indexer on this. We can say public this int index return elements of index. Okay. Public sprite this. There we go. Actually, no, we can actually just put an indexer on this. What am I doing? God, so dumb. Yeah, how about that? Cool. So now you have an indexer. All right, so now each face is equal to that. So that is the face that we're talking about. The var sprite, no, the image is going to be equal to faces faces.getChild at index dot get component. No, get component. This will be the sprite. I mean, we might as well just create a list of the renderers, right? Right, there's no point in getting that each time. So this will be the sprite renderer. This will be the face sprites. This needs to be a list. This will be a list of sprite renderers, which will be face sprites. So in initialize, we'll just say face sprites is equal to face sprites is equal to new list of sprite renderer, okay? Then in create faces, we will say sprite or face sprites dot add face dot get component sprite renderer. Okay. Now we can say that we will say face sprites at the index sprite is equal to face registry indexed at the face dot magnitude. Okay. So the magnitude of the face, the way that this works in the die, it's basically there's different types of faces that determine the value of the die. The one that we're using is constant, which is just the number of pips. And so it'll be the constant face type, and the number of pips or constant face types, the number of pips is determined or is equal to the magnitude of the face. And so the reasoning behind that is that, say if you had a die that doubles the value of all the other face types, you'd have a face type of multiplier, and then if it doubled it, the magnitude would be 2, or if it tripled it, magnitude would be 3. In our case, the only one we're using is the constant one, which just gives you the number of pips total. So yeah, this is the magnitude, okay? So what we can say is we can say that the die is equal to, let's say, new die, and then we can initialize this with, I think, faces is equal to new die.face. And then each face, let's say the magnitude is equal to 1, and then the type is equal to constant. What is it? Is it face? No, the type is equal to face type dot constant. Something like that. No, you go here. Is this new? This is new list of die.face. Okay. We'll just create faces 1 through 6 for the purposes of testing. Put you here. Okay. So that's face 1, 2. And actually, let's put these in a line just because it makes more sense, or it conserves more space. Like, we're not increasing the readability because we're going to get rid of this at some point. Yeah, just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll say 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now if we call initialize and then we say refresh, this should all work, assuming that in the template we reference the face registry. Yes. Okay. So if we do this, what happens? It breaks. Okay. Nice to know. So that breaks. Okay. Game object, script trying to access it. You probably added a sprite renderer. I added something. What did I do? Not seeing this. Missing component. There is no sprite render attached to... Oh, it's not a sprite render, it's an image. That's what it is. Face images. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's one issue. Oh, and that was correct. Okay, so yeah, you can see we get the faces 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that's not quite all what I wanted to do. Because the problem is, so let's say we had, I don't know, 1, 1, 2, 2, 0, no, 1, 1, no, left, like 3, 3, 1, 1, you know, 0, or 1, 2, 0, and then 5. Because these faces, or these die, are not going to be like standard dice. You're going to be able to have, you know, duplicates and weird sort of things. So let's say we had something like this. What I want to happen is I want these to appear in order. I don't want them to appear like this. I want them to appear ordered. So I want the zeros to appear first, the 1 to appear here, you know, 3, and then, or the zeros, the 1, the 3s, and then the 4. So I want them sorted, basically. So what that means is that we have to do a select. And we will select the die.faces. And we will select each, actually we don't need to do this. We can do, can iterate over die.faces actually. Die.faces for each face is equal to, oh, but we don't have the index. Never mind, we do need to do that. But this should be, instead of face count, it should be die.faces.size, or .count. No, it really shouldn't. That's fine. In this case, what we need to do is we need to somehow sort the faces before they get to us. And I'm not sure. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to say var sorted faces. We need to say is equal to die.faces. Then I think we can just, so sort, I believe, actually changes the list. I think that actually changes the list, which I don't want to do. What I want to do, what I want to do is I actually want to get a sorted copy back, but I don't want to sort this. So I don't know an easy way to do that in C#. Actually, yes I do. I can do new list of die.face. I believe if we pass in die.faces, we get a new copy. So we can sort on the face such that we use the face.magnitude. And you don't like this. All right, you don't, because you don't like this. And we have to do like this, and then, oh, you don't like that? Oh, you can't sort. Really? We have to actually put in a comparer here? Really? Yeah, we do. Alright, so a face such that we return face, oh no. I think the face is like left, right, such that we return left dot magnitude dot compare to right dot magnitude. Is that right? Will you accept that? You will. Okay. I think that's what we want to do. Issue I have is that this returns a void. You know what? F that, we're not doing that. Using red plus blue dot extensions, I'll just create my own extension for this. So what we can do is we can, in list extensions, we can create a public static list t that returns, or no, an ilist t, return a list of t, and it will be sort according to some, use this ilist, this will be of t, this will be a list, and we're going to sort it according to some function that takes in t and returns an int. This will just be an int sort. Okay, I think we can use system. We can do using system. We can get function, and then this will be the comparer, something like that. All the things you don't like. Sort of t. Okay. And so now what we shall do is we shall say list.sort. Oh, you don't have, oh, you do, okay. Because we need system.link here. Okay. So we can say we want to sort you. Or can we not? Oh, can you not sort ilist? Oh, is it ilist that can't be sorted? Is that what it is? Oh, that's annoying. Alright. So lists actually, it has to actually be list. Guess I'm fine with that. So we'll sort using some comparer. We'll sort left, right. We apply the comparer to left. Then we say compare to, and we apply the comparer to right. All right, and then we just return list. There we go. And of course, this is not necessary. It just makes this easier to pipeline. So now we can do, we can say sorted faces at sort, like that. And actually all we need to do is we say face such that we return face.magnitude. There we go. So the sorted faces is, say, create a list, and then we sort it according to the face.magnitude. God, I like that so much better. And now if I did that right, this should be sorted faces of index, right? I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's correct. Sorted faces at index. Okay, let's give it a try. Again, assuming I sorted that right. Haha, it works. Perfect. All right, I surprise myself sometimes. But anyway, just to re-explain that to people who did not fully understand, which is very possible because that was very complicated what I just did. So you can, in C# you can create extension methods. And so what the syntax of it is you create a static class, and then you create a static method, and that method will add, the first argument of that method has the this keyword first, then the type, and then you give it a name. And so basically now any list, whenever this class is imported, any list has the sort method on it, and that sort method takes a function, that converts from the key type, or sorry, converts from the element type to an integer, and that's the comparer. And this function returns a list. So that's where you see in the signature here, it is an extension. It goes on list with the element type die.face, or it returns a list of die.face. It activates on die.face, and it sorts things of type die.face. And it takes a function that takes a face, converts it to an int. And so in this case, what we do is we apply the default sorting method, which will modify the original list. Yeah, it'll modify, actually what I probably want to do is I probably want to create a new list, right? We'll say var sorted is equal to new list of t with elements of list, and we'll say sorted.sort. Yeah, that'll just return a new list. That'll keep it from modifying the original. So this just creates a copy, and then we want to sort the new copy. So for sort, it takes in a comparer, or a comparison, I should say. And that comparison will compare any two elements. So usually when you're doing a comparer, you do like the left element and the right element. So these are of type t. And so what we want to do is compare to, we'll order things naturally. So integers have a compare to. So what we're doing is we're just hijacking that compare to. And the way that we're doing that is that we say, okay, I want to take whatever t is and I want to convert it to an integer. That's what this function does. So if we apply the comparer, or if we apply left to this comparer, it'll return an integer. So this returns an int. So say int compared to some other int, and naturally ints can be ordered by their size. So 0 will always come before 1, 2 will always come after 1, stuff like that. And so that's what we're doing with this comparison. And so we're just sorting elements of type t based on some integer property that they have. So yeah, and this comparer allows us to specify which integer property we want to use. We could implement comparison, or we could implement like some comparable or something like that. But I don't want to do that. I think that this just makes more sense, because otherwise, what would you think that die.face naturally sorts on? You would have no idea. In this case, you would know that it sorts on the magnitude. It is a little bit less efficient, I think, because you have to do more calls, but I don't really care. I think this is just a cleaner way of writing it. Let me, since I changed how that works mechanically, let me double check that it still works. Now it doesn't. Okay, I broke something. I think I returned list instead of sorted, right? Is that what I did? Yeah, I returned list. Let's return sorted. Always have to check whenever you modify something, because you know you might screw something up and not think you did. There we go. Now it returns them in order, regardless of what order they're in. Question comes whenever we want to upgrade one of these faces, how we're actually going to do that, but we'll think about that a little bit later. Okay, so now that we have this, what we can do is we can create the die list. Yeah, so we want to create the dice list because we just created the die list item, but not the actual dice list. We can get rid of refresh here, and then we don't want to initialize this here. We want to initialize this in the dice list. Well, actually, we don't even want to initialize it there. We want to initialize it elsewhere. But for now, that's where we're going to keep, or yeah, for now, we're going to just initialize it in some kind of static data until we get like some kind of player data object. But anyway, I need to take a quick break because my brain is a little bit fried, and yeah, I'm still surprised that that worked so well. Anyway, I will see you guys in like 5 minutes or something, and we'll create the dice list component there, and yeah. Anyway, see you in a bit. Alright, and I am back, so let us swap over to this scene. So what we were going to do is we were going to create the dice list component now. So what we want to do in the dice list is we want to specify some list of dice, and we want to create and manage dice list item components for each die. So the first thing we can do is we can create our new mono behavior here. This is the die list component. Okay. And we're going to need collections, but not that collections. We're going to need system.collections generic. I really need to set up Visual Studio to auto import. So red plus blue.game. I also need to set up the templates for this, like the mono behavior templates for the namespace. So this is the die list component. This is going to have a public die list item component. We need to store, we're going to be using the template system, so this is going to be the template. Actually, no, we want this to have a rect transform. The reasoning behind that, is I think whenever you use the default transform, the reference to the default transform, I think it causes issues. Also, why are we allowed to do this outside of, did they move this outside of UI? I don't know why we're allowed to do this now. That's weird. I thought this was, for some reason I thought this was in Unity Engine.ui, but I might be wrong. It may never have been. Okay, so we need a protected list of die list components, or no, die list item components, item, or no, not die list, dice list, item components. This will be elements, I guess, or we'll say, I guess, dice, sure. And then this actually needs to be, to keep the same plurality. Yeah, this needs to be the dice list component, yeah. Okay. I think all we need is, we need a way to create new dice to this, or we need a way to add dice. So we'll say public void add die, and we also need a protected instead of a list, let's make this a dictionary from die to the item, and this will be our dice. So we can just add die. It's a question of whether or not we want to let this create the die, or we want to add, no we don't. We want to add a specific die. And so what we can do is we can have a protected void create list item. And what we will do, we will return a die list, dice list item component. And what we will do is we will say var list item is equal to, we instantiate, want to instantiate the template with ourselves as the parent, I believe. And then we want to say that the list item component is equal to list item get component. I mean, I guess we can just return. We can just return this dot get component, and this will be the dice list item component. I see it's wrong in the signature here. Something like that. All right. So for add die, I believe what we can do is we can say dice.add, And then what we will do is we'll add the die, and we'll map it to the create list item. And I guess we want to pass in a die here, just to map it. So we'll say var dice list, or we'll say var item is equal to that. And we'll say item dot die is equal to die. Alright, and so we'll create the list item for that die, and then we just want to add that there. And then we want a public void refresh, so we can refresh all of the list items. Why are you not happy? Oh, return item, right. There we go. Okay, we'll put that, and then in private void awake, we want to make sure that we initialize this. Maybe we could initialize it up here, it really doesn't matter. Yeah, let's do that, that's fine. In awake, I don't think we need to do anything normally. For refresh, what we need to do, oh, we also need to say item.gameObject.setActiveTrue, because the template is going to be false by default. And then in refresh, what we need to do is we need to say dice.using system.link, say dice.forEach, or toList, no. I guess dice.values, because that's the component. .toList.forEach, dice values toList for each. We want to say value, or no, component to component.refresh. Yeah, we just refresh that die. This just refreshes all the items in the dice list when one of them changes. We'll need to do that. So in this case, what we can say is that dice, or no, what we can do is we can say, let's say enumerable, let's create a couple dice. So let's say enumerable.range, we'll say, I don't know, we'll create 10 dice. For each, or no, we'll say, wait, can we not really? Okay, fine, create a list. For each index, what we want to do is we want to create a new die, such that the faces is equal to a range of 0 to 6. And let's say we create a list for that, and then we say, actually, can we do a select here? Yeah, we'll select the index to create a new die.face, and then that face will have the type of constant. Type is equal to dieFaceType.constant. And then the magnitude is going to be range, or random.range, from, let's say, 0 to 9. Sure. Just create random ones there. You don't like this because missing a cast. We can say .toList. Okay, so that's the faces. And then that's the die. And then yeah, so for each index, we just create a die, and then we add that die. We can actually say just add die. To that, okay, perfect. So yeah, we'll just create 10 dice with random faces, something like that. And then we call refresh. And this is just for testing. Okay. can set this template to be invisible, okay? And then we can set this. No, this will be the die list component. Why is it not? There it is, dice list component. And actually what we need to do is we need to set the content specifically. Let's say public rect transform content. And then we will instantiate this with content as the parent. Okay. Content gets it here. All right, so we should get 10 values in this list. Yes, okay, so we do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, perfect. And they'll have randomized faces, which are all sorted. All right, I like this. Unfortunately, okay, actually the list I think is working correctly. I've had some issues with list views in the past. But I think, or not list views, but I wish Unity had list views, that would be amazing. But nope, they have scroll views. Okay. This might, okay, so this actually works now. Good. Yeah, we get randomized dice, which is perfect. That's not what we want for the beginning of the game, but that's good enough for right now. Okay. What time is it? We have enough time. Okay, we probably want the add button to work. So we can do that. And I don't know how we're gonna figure out the unassigned and stuff like that. Also don't know how we're gonna do the click and drag stuff. Because I think we're gonna need some kind of some kind of input managing tool, because this is kind of, well, actually no, oh no, something's broken. Wait, what is broken? Hang on, why did the camera stop working? That was weird. Is the camera actually not working? No. Why is that? Ooh, hold on. Let me see something here. Did I break something? No, the camera works now. But when this is active, it doesn't? Okay, that's very strange. Okay, what about here? Okay, so it doesn't work here. Oh, right, it does work. I'm an idiot. That's the problem. Yes, I'm an idiot. I was like, wait a minute, it's not working. Why is it not working? It is working. I'm just, yeah, okay. It's too realistic. Pro tip, maybe don't take screenshots of your game. Maybe only export the actual image part. God, it's so dumb. So yeah, what else can we do? Could get started on this. But yeah, it's a question of how we're going to do the click and drag, because we already have some click and drag code somewhere else. We might be able to do it using Unity's default like click and drag stuff. We might also be able to create. No, we need some kind of layered like input manager. Yeah, we need some kind of layered input manager basically. Which I'm going to have to deal with at some other point, not today. I'll probably do that off camera, just because it's a little bit easier to do off camera. So let's see here. We have the dice appearing correctly. So we can call this done, because whenever we add dice to this, they do what they're supposed to do. What we do need to figure out. I guess the next thing we can do is we can create the other part of the UI, stuff over here, or at least start mocking it up today. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to create a new panel, and for the dice list, let me just copy you, just paste this here. These are the background. Here, this is going to be the stats panel, right? And so it is going to have a width, let's say 900, 950, sure. And then a height of, let's say, it's a question of whether we want this to be one panel or multiple panels. We want this to be multiple panels. Let's say 200 as the height. So yeah, actually what we can do is we can duplicate this. We can remove you. We can set your width and height to 0, and then we can put you in here. There we go. One second. Apologies. All right. You are centered, that's good. We want you to be more like 180 in height. So this is going to be a list view, or not a list view, it's going to be a grid view with 2 columns and 3 rows, I believe. Unless we want to show something else in here. I don't know that we do. See, this is going to be, what is this going to be? Level and experience or something? Or we'll just say summary. It'll be a summary. And then since this is 180 in height, that's probably also 180. Actually, I don't know. This will be health and mana. And we need to create the stat list item. Because, yeah, you need to create the stat list item stuff. It's a question of how we want to do that. We don't want this dynamically populated, we want this statically populated. But I think we want options for the maximum number of slots and then the currently unlocked slots. So let us create a panel. And in here, let's add a vertical layout component. Actually, we should set the height to 0. And we can set force child expand width and height. We can set, actually we don't want to do that. No. We don't want a vertical layout group. We want a grid layout group. Cell size is going to be 950. And then 100 actually works pretty well. We can align it to the top. So yeah, that will be the grid element. Then you don't actually need to be assigned to a background. This is like a stat. Yeah, this just be a stat, I guess. And let me make the background darker just so that we can look at it better for now. We'll create a UI. Let's just create an image, make it, I don't know, 32 by 32, no, 64 by 64. This will be the stat image, just so it's easier to understand. For the moment, we can set that to be, I was going to say like a sword or something, but sure, we'll set it to this shield. Sure. It'll be the stand-in for the stat stuff. I'm sure it probably needs to be like 72 by 72, something like that. This will be the image. I'll say the stat icon. We want Text Mesh Pro. We want the stat label. So we'll say TMP. This will be the, I guess, name of the stat. And it will be size 30 maybe? No, size 40. Say health. And then It will be bold, yes. Okay, something like that. Really, this, oh yeah, we want to disable wrapping. Yeah, okay. So that's health, and then what we want is we want the die icons, or the dice icons. So this will be the die. This will be this will be a template, because we actually don't know exactly how many we're going to have. So we're going to have a empty with 0, 0, and then a grid layout component, and it's going to have a size of, let's say, 72 by 72, and the template's going to go inside of that. It's going to be assigned to the middle left, or aligned, I should say, not assigned, aligned to the middle left, and it can probably sit like right there. And yeah, we're going to have a total of 6 of these at max. So this will be the slots, and we're going to create these dynamically at runtime because there could be a variable number of them, and we will only know that, we'll know it at compile time, but not compile time, we'll know at we'll know before runtime, but it doesn't really matter. Well, I mean, it does matter, but it's just better to do it this way, or it's easier for me to think about doing it this way. Anyway, we want 6 of these. 6 of these, okay. And we want the fixed row count, we want there to be 1 row. Okay, and then we want the spacing to be 5. They're a little bit big, so let's say 64 by 64. Closer to the right size. Okay, then all of these will be very dark because they won't have a die in them. So now we need a couple things. We might not have this average here. We might just have the button for increasing the number of dice and the button for increasing the, what is it? Well, actually, you might be able to just click on the slot to unlock it. Yeah, we'll probably do that. We'll probably have a thing where you click on the slot to unlock it. And so we'll just have the fixed stat increase here. So this will be +0. This will be the bonus. And we can probably set this text to like 60 or something. Just have it be very large. And the width can be 0, it doesn't really matter. And we can have that set there. We can, of course, make this completely transparent. And obviously we're going to have to fix the UI colors, but I think it's working pretty well. Maybe we will have U, maybe we'll have U be the white variant of this. Yeah, it's probably better. Health and mana, okay. U, we'll just have U be super light. Nope, that makes you hard to read as well. Let's make you gray. Okay, but yeah, we'll have one of these for each. Yeah, this needs to be a fixed column count, needs to have 1 column. So for health and mana, there will be 2 of these, exactly. And they don't have background, they are just static like that. Yep, so we'll have health and mana, and then we will have another block for defense and other stuff. But we need a button to increase the bonus. This is the bonus. And we need a new button. It will be a UI Text Mesh Pro button. Say the width is maybe 60 by 60. Okay. And it will just have a giant plus sign on it. This will be the label, plus, and this will be like 50 or something like that. Be bold, it will be center aligned. Actually, we could probably make it like 70 or something. Yeah, something like that. So that'll increase the bonus. Increase bonus. Yeah. Let's see, this probably needs to be more aligned here, like that. And something like this. Just aligning things a little bit better, okay? And the slots can be more centralized. Something like that. Okay, so we probably need a stat. We need like a stat component or a stat list, not stat list, but like stat, some kind of component. I don't know what it's going to be. I'll just say a stat. Well, no. Let's go in here. Let's go into UI. A stat upgrade component, sure. That'll work. And this will be namespace red plus blue.game. Okay. And so what we will do is I want to populate the slots and then also the bonus and all of that stuff. So what we will need is, we'll say, using Unity Engine.ui. We will again use the template system for the slots. So a public rect transform slot template. Let's say public rect transform slots. Say public oh god, shut up, I don't care. Say public text, or no, we need text mesh pro. Say TM Pro, yeah, using TM Pro. This is TMP text. This is the bonus, and we'll say public TMP text. This is the name of the stat. So actually, let's put these here, and then we'll have a public image. This is the icon for the stat. Right. And so I also want to store the stats as scriptable objects. So say a stat, just call this a stat, I guess. Sure. Say namespace red plus blue.game. Okay. We want to make this a scriptable object. Scriptable object. We'll say create asset menu. Create asset menu. Data/stat. This is the menu name. Okay. This is a public string. Give it a name, and then we'll give it an icon. Say public inner sprite icon. And then we'll have a public int max slots, something like that. And then in here, we want to reference a public stat. This will be the stat that this references. So in private void awake, what we will do is we will say that the icon dot sprite is equal to the stat dot icon. The name dot text is equal to stat dot name. The bonus is equal to dot text is equal to +0 for the moment. And then we want to have a protected void create slots. Okay. And what we will do is we will say enumerable, we need a link for this. Let's say using system dot link, say enumerable dot range of 0 to stat dot slots. Whoops, not at all what I meant to do. To list for each index. What we want to do is we want to say var slot is equal to, we want to instantiate the slot template at the slots with that as the parent. Slot.local scale is vector3 1, vector3 1. So that should work. Okay, yeah, that should work. So let's check that out. Okay. This should have the template. Okay, we can delete all of you. We can set you inactive. Oh, that's the other thing we need to do. To say slot.setActive. Whoops, let's not do that here. Let's do that here. GameObject.setActive true. Okay. So now let's say that we have health. Or actually, yeah, let's call this health. We add a stat upgrade component. Don't have the stat quite yet, so we have the icon. We will have that as the name, that as the bonus. The slot template is in here. That is slots, okay. I'm not going to make this into a prefab. We probably should, but I'm not going to. It's the story of my life. I probably should, but I'm not going to. Let's say stats. We probably also need to unify our naming convention. But sure, this will be health. And let's say the icon is equal to something. I don't know. Do we have anything with a heart on it? We don't. Sure, it'll be equal to a tower shield. That'll work. Then we'll have mana. You are going to be equal to something else. I don't know. Let's say, sure, use the axe. No, actually, let's use like a shield or something. Sure, we'll use that shield for mana. Mana. Max slots are going to be 3. Then in this case, they're also going to be 3. And then this will be the health stat. Okay. Then I want the bonus. I want the default to just be nothing. So yeah, let's duplicate this. Let's call it mana to mana. Then we can assign health here and mana, and mana here. All right, so those two should change at runtime now. Cool. They did not create the slots though, but they didn't create the templates. Did I not call the method? I bet you I didn't call the method. Yeah, I didn't call the method. That always helps. All right. There we go. They each got 3, which is what we wanted them to get. Perfect. Okay, now let's create the others. This is health and mana, but we want to actually have attack, defense, magic, speed, and luck. So let's say attack, defense, magic, speed, and luck. So say attack, defense, magic, speed, luck. And say attack, which has a max of 6, defense, which has a max of 6, luck, same thing. Say it has a max of 4, just now have a max of 6, we can change it later. The magic, max of 6, and speed, which has a max of 2. Yeah, something like that. We're not going to go through and assign images to each one, I just don't care enough to do that. Say other stats. Yeah, other stats. Then there's like 5, there's attack, defense, magic, speed, and luck, magic, speed, luck. Magic, speed, and luck. Okay, attack. Nope. Attack, defense, magic, magic, speed, and let's say luck. All right. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so we have health, mana, attack, defense, magic, speed, and luck. Perfect. So that is more or less how the stat stuff is going to look. I will spend some time on my own making it look a little bit better because, oh boy, it's quite a mess. Anyway, I think this is a good stopping point for today. But yeah, I'll spend some time on my own and actually clean this up because there's a lot of errors that get generated, and also we need some kind of input management component, and not input management, but like layered input management thing. Because when we're in the inventory, or not in the inventory, when we're in the stat upgrade thing, we don't want to be clicking outside of it and having issues there. We could just create like some kind of curtain, but I'd rather just have the input calls only go to whatever's on top in case we want to do hotkeys later or something. There is also the case that whenever we move, one of the things I want to do, I can deactivate this for now. One of the things I want to do is I don't want the movement to be the default state. I want to make it a toggle. So I want it so that each time, so whenever you move, you'll move, then the enemies will move. And then I want it so that the player needs to hit Q before they actually get to move again. So the idea will be that it's sort of a toggle. Or maybe it'll just be a toggle all around and it'll always be up. You know, like you'll click to move and then it will get disabled and then re-enabled when it's your turn again. And then I kind of want Q to toggle it on and off. The idea being that when we're here, I want you to have to actually toggle the movement off. You'd have to hit Q and then you can mess with your inventory. I think that'll be a better system. That way we don't have all the issues that we have here, especially here as well. You could just, you'd have to hit Q before you could interact with anything. I think that would work better. So yeah, I'll work on that as well. And I also want to do a thing with Fog of War. So the idea is that I want like a door here, and then I want all of these tiles to be dark, and then just whatever game objects are on top of them get deactivated. And then when we open it, we do some kind of like propagation sort of thing where it like undarkens and turns into something, and you can see it. I don't know. Do something like that. But yeah, other than that, I'll be working on this tomorrow. I don't know if I'll stream any of it. Probably not, but I'm going to take a break. get some lunch, and then we'll be back here at 2 o'clock Central for some Gene Forge. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you.